You know the typical story with chickenpox, a few itchy spots, maybe a slight fever, a week home from school, and then boom, it's totally forgotten. That's the classic narrative, right? Well, today, in this explainer, we're going to unpack the actual science behind that story. We are separating the hard medical facts from all that outdated folklore to give you the ultimate essential guide every parent absolutely needs to navigate this super common illness safely. Let's get right into it. We've got to challenge this common myth right out of the gate. Is catching this illness really just a harmless, easy rite of passage for every single kid out there? For generations, parents have just kind of assumed it's completely unavoidable and totally fine. Just something every child literally has to get through. But here's the truth. Mild definitely does not mean risk-free. Sure, for some kids, it is just a few itchy spots and a relatively easy week. But for others, it can actually become a serious medical event that demands our absolute full attention. So, why do some kids bounce back without a hitch while others develop serious complications? To figure that out, we really need to look under the hood at the biology of what's actually happening in the body. Let's start with the medical reality by defining exactly what we're dealing with here. Chickenpox, which your doctor might call varicella, is an infection caused by the varicella zoster virus. It actually belongs to the herpes virus family, and the fact that it is a virus is a huge piece of the puzzle because it dictates exactly how we're supposed to treat it. Because it's a viral infection, we have to make a really vital medical distinction right now. Antibiotics will not cure it. Antibiotics are designed exclusively to fight bacterial infections, which means they are completely 100% useless against varicella. Now, that doesn't mean doctors are powerless. In cases where the disease gets unusually severe, medical professionals might step in with specific antiviral medications to help manage things. So, how does it spread? Well, the crucial point is right here. We are talking about a highly contagious airborne threat. This is exactly why almost everyone who isn't vaccinated eventually gets exposed to it. A kid doesn't even need to touch an infected playmate or, share a toy to catch it. The virus just travels effortlessly right through the air. That means packed environments like schools and daycares, they are literally the perfect breeding grounds for this to spread like wildfire. Now, let's tackle a really famous cultural image. We have to ask, does covering children in green liquid actually do anything to cure the rash? In certain parts of the world, having chickenpox is strongly associated with being painted in these bright green spots. Historically, countless well-meaning parents fully believed this dye was actively fighting the illness. But let's look at reality. That green dye systematically fails to provide any actual relief or medical treatment for the sick child. It absolutely does not kill the virus. It doesn't stop new blisters from forming. It definitely doesn't soothe that terrible itch, and it certainly does not shorten the overall length of the illness. So what was the true purpose of that colorful dye? It's actually kind of fascinating. It was just a contagion marker. Doctors and parents back in the day used it simply as a visual tracking tool. By painting the older spots green, it made it super easy to estimate when new, unpainted spots had finally stopped showing up. It was never actually medicine, it was basically just a visual calendar on the skin. And tracking exactly when the virus spreads reveals a really important timeline for us. A child is actually contagious before the very first spot even appears on their skin. Crazy, right? Then they remain highly contagious as long as new blisters are actively forming. The risk only drops significantly when all the blisters have completely dried up and turned into hard crusts. But here is a critical distinction we really have to make. Just because the crusts form and the contagion drops, it doesn't mean a child is ready to rush right back to school. Fighting off this airborne virus takes a massive toll on a kid's little body. Their immune system still really needs fresh air, solid rest, and a nice gradual recovery before jumping back into those loud, crowded, high-energy environments. The biggest challenge for kids isn't usually the virus itself. It's the intense discomfort it brings, the dreaded itch. So why does it itch so severely? Well, the skin is deeply irritated by the blisters. On top of that, children are often sweating from a fever, and being stuck in a warm room only makes that itch flare up even worse. Add in the physical damage from them inevitably scratching it, and you've got a seriously miserable cycle. Let's adopt a deeply reassuring approach here with a simple 3-step routine that safely relieves the itch. First, drop the temperature. Ensure a cool room and dress them in very light clothing. Second, despite those old fears about bathing a sick child, giving a cool or lukewarm bath is highly recommended to soothe the skin.
Third, when they get out, gently pat the skin dry without aggressively rubbing it. This prevents breaking the blisters and helps avoid nasty secondary bacterial infections.
Now, when you're trying to stop the scratching, it's a super common mistake to frantically cover your child's entire body in multiple itch creams. But more medicine doesn't always mean better treatment. Simple measures like keeping the air cool, using comfortable clothes, and just keeping their fingernails cut short so they can't do damage if they do scratch are often way more effective than layering on endless creams. Okay, moving to Section 2, Hidden Risks and Complications for Vulnerable Groups. The stakes elevate dramatically for certain vulnerable groups. For pregnant women, especially early in pregnancy, catching chickenpox can pose serious risks to the developing baby. Newborns are also highly vulnerable if infection happens right around childbirth, mostly because they lack protective antibodies. And adults who catch it for the first time, they usually suffer a much more severe illness. For all of these groups, complications can include severe bacterial skin infections, pneumonia, or even dangerous inflammation affecting the nervous system. This brings us to a really stark contrast between old, risky folklore and safe, modern medical consensus. Because childhood cases are usually milder, some parents think, hey, I should just expose my child to it intentionally and get it over with. But intentional exposure is completely unpredictable. You have absolutely no idea how severe that wild virus will be for your specific child. On the flip side, vaccination provides a highly controlled way to build immunity. And here is how that medical marvel works. By using a weakened form of the virus, modern vaccination programs in many countries, including the US and across Europe, can effectively train the immune system to recognize and fight the virus. It protects families safely without causing the full, wild, and totally unpredictable disease.
Moving on to Section 3, the Golden Rules. We're covering essential care and some critical warnings.
If your child is sick, your absolute #1 priority is hydration to prevent complications. Give them plenty of fluids. Don't worry about forcing them to eat heavy meals if they aren't hungry. Just offer light, easy options. And to manage their fever, stick to common, pediatrician-approved medicines like acetaminophen or ibuprofen when appropriate. But this brings us to our absolute climax. This is a critical warning you must memorize. Do not ever give aspirin to children with chickenpox. Combining aspirin with the varicella virus can trigger a rare but incredibly dangerous and life-threatening complication. Always, always carefully check the labels of any fever medication to ensure it is completely aspirin-free. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. When our kids are sick, we naturally feel desperate to do something, right? We want to apply more creams, try the green dyes, or just rush them back to their normal routines as fast as possible. But is good medicine always about doing more, or is it about knowing what not to do? Safely navigating chickenpox is really all about understanding the facts, recognizing how this airborne virus behaves, avoiding dangerous treatments like aspirin, and focusing on simple, cool comfort. Thanks for diving into this explainer with me, and keep seeking out the facts.